What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Kill Shot. We're taking a look at UFC Fight Night Krylov versus Spann. Another kind of mediocre card, keeping it real, with a ton of new 7 debutants on this card, MonkMMAtics.
Yeah, it's even more than last week. Last week we had 5. I thought that was a lot.
Yeah, 7. So we got to break down a lot of new fighters, a lot of surprises. Got Big Marley, got MonkMMAtics, got myself, the Geek here. We're going to break it all down. DraftKings, UFC breakdown starting now. So let's get into this. And the first fight on this card, let's just kind of get the whole thing up, get the fight odds screen going here. And the first fight of the night, we've got Jose Johnson taking on Garrett Armfield. Man, it's a surprising underdog here in Jose Johnson, plus 130. Garrett Armfield, a minus 150 favorite. The fight ends inside the distance. Prop is a spectacular minus 225. So well over 2-1 odds that this one finishes inside the distance. A little bit of research on this one. And, you know, these are both debutantes, but Armfield, you know, he's got grappling, got a little wrestling, 5'6". Jose, is this the biggest lightweight? I mean, 100, he's 6 feet tall, 135 pounds. Big Marley, I know you like Corey Sandhagen. You're big fan of Sean O'Malley. Who's the tallest of them all?
Oh man, I don't even know. Yeah, I don't know. You're the size guy, so
I do like the size matters, bro. Size matters. My wife tells me that when she says no. Anyway, MonkMMAtics. Is this the biggest 135er there is in the UFC?
I mean, it might be. What is he? Is he at one? Bantamweight. I mean, like you said, Sean O'Malley's got to be up there. I'm just trying to quickly look through my extravagant list of bantamweights here, and there's got to be one that's close, but he's probably first or second.
Yeah, he's up there. 15-7 record. Normally, you don't see a lot of newcomers with a 15-7 record either. That's kind of weird. You know,
he's
27
been sub 3 times, I think, in his career. Knocked out once.
I think when you're that tall, let's see. A lot of those losses came early, so I'm just looking at the record here. A lot of those, I mean, you know, I don't want to hold it too hard against him. I think that some of the recent losses were kind of like Martinez and Ronnie Lawrence. Okay, they're both in the UFC now, or at least they were. I don't know if Martinez is still in there, but like
Ronnie, he's booked. I think he's fighting next week, actually.
All right, so I mean, he lost recently to UFC contenders. And, you know, before that, I don't, you know, what was happening back in, 2016. I don't know how relevant it is. So it took him a minute. But Big Marley, stylistically, how do you see this one going down?
See, I'd say it's kind of two strikers in this one where Armfield should more look to be a wrestler, and then Johnson might need to turn into a grappler. Johnson does have some grappling chops, but if he can keep this on the feet, I like him to win this fight at range and just kind of pick Armfield apart throughout the fight. I like his striking a decent amount more, but it's more so the finish that we're going to need from him because he's probably not going to be going for the wrestling. And if he goes out there and wins a striking-based decision, I don't know that he's even going to 10x this $7,700 salary. So that's kind of my worry with him, but he is an underdog that I'm picking to win. So I like that about him. I'm okay with him in all formats, but I would say it's Armfield that has the higher ceiling in a decision because Johnson was taken down 18 times in his 2 contender series fights. And this guy just has a problem with his takedown defense. I don't think that Armfield's a guy that can get him down 6 to 12 times, but he could get him down 2 or 3 times and just grind out enough minutes to win the fight. And if he is getting him down, I think he can keep him down, land enough strikes to score well on DraftKings. So he's the guy who has the higher decision upside, who could also finish the fight. So I'm not against getting some Armfield exposure as well, because I might make 150 lineups this week, and I'll just be tossing some guys in. But if I'm making one lineup, I think I'd rather just have the underdog, the guy I'm picking to win. I think he can keep this on the feet and win at least 2 rounds if he doesn't get a finish along the way.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like Armfield's like a big takedowns guy, but Jose Johnson, he goes down almost like nothing, but he does get back up, MonkMMAtics.
Exactly. He gets back up. Now, he didn't win the fight against Ronnie Lawrence. Obviously, that guy's in the UFC now. He's taking down Brendan Allen a million times. He's landed like 50,000 takedowns in the UFC in just a few fights. So I'm not really surprised by that. Cartwright took him down 6 times, and he still lost the fight. Yeah, it was a close fight, but he still lost the fight, and Jose Johnson would have scored 98 points still in that fight, putting up 4.5 points per minute. So for DraftKings, I'm all over Jose Johnson this week. He's the cheaper fighter, which blows my mind still. Like, I'm not betting this fight, but who in the world's putting minus 150 on Garrett Armfield? Every single capper I've listened to this week is picking Jose Johnson. How are the odds like this? Like, I just don't understand. And for DraftKings, it makes no sense. Like, Armfield scored 1.63 points against David Onama in over 8 minutes. So he had ample opportunity to put up more points than that, and he just didn't. He allowed 3.6 per minute, and Onama scored 100 points on him. You score 100 points, you're making optimal lineup 80% of the time. You just take salaries out. So, also Armfield is $1,600 more than he was in his UFC debut. What are we doing here? I'm Jose Johnson all day. Usually I fade Dana White Contender Series guys. I fade UFC newcomers a bit. I don't see why I would fade Jose Johnson here. I'll have him in probably more lineups than I'm comfortable with. I don't know why I would roster Armfield other than some takedown upside, which he shows 0 of in the David Onama fight. So I'm going to have to see it from Armfield first to believe it. It's kind of like Nick Maximoff in his first fight or two. You're like, okay, he can supposedly land takedowns, but I'm going to have to see it. Then we did see it, and it turns out that dude was a fraud. So I'm going with Jose Johnson here. Scores very, very well. He's the one that has landed takedowns in his UFC or in his Dana White Contender Series fight over Armfield. So, give me Johnson here. I love him for the salary break that we get at 7,700, the dog salary. And that's actually the second best salary to play for Salary Voodoo. I believe it makes optimal like 32% of the time. So give me the dog here.
And the last underdog that you said you'll have in more lineups than you're comfortable with, I think, was Adam Fugit, and he broke the slate. So maybe you're onto something.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
-220
last week. Let's keep it going, baby.
Yeah. -225 inside the distance prop. Like, let's not forget what's going on here.
Yep.
This guy Armfield does not make it through a lot of fights for whatever reason. They're all, it's so common for his fights, especially when he wins, for him winning by finish. So let's see his losses. Yeah, he lost by decision to Ronnie Lawrence, but every other loss is also looks like, for the most part, this guy has not been going the distance in his fight. So Armfield, a bit of a finish or be finished kind of a guy. Jose Johnson, really similar. He hasn't been outside. He had he had the decision against Ronnie Lawrence also. But outside of that, it's been all inside the distance, or for the most part, wins and losses inside the distance, or primarily. So a lot of finishes between these two. The curtain jerk are a little scary. But I think with as sexy as some of the pay up options look on this card, you gotta pay down somewhere. So I like Jose as well. All right. Next fight on the docket, we've got Haley Cowan taking on Eileen Perez. Eileen, I believe she is a twerker and an MMA fighter. She has 2 occupations: twerking and fighting.
She's also a full-time delusional as well, but that's another topic.
You have to tell me what a delusional is.
She's delusional. She's all over Twitter. She lost to Stephanie Yeager, and then she went on Twitter saying now she's the best in the world, should be fighting for a belt, and would beat the champion, and she just needs a chance. It's like, you just lost to Stephanie Yeager like 26 minutes ago. Who are you? So delusional.
Twerking. Fight goes to the distance, -165. This is a close fight. Cowan and Perez. Cowan's -125. I want to see if there was line movement here. I feel like there was. Yep. So this is interesting. All the monies have been flowing in on Perez. Maybe she's convincing people on that Instagram page, or maybe something's going on there. So Big Marley, stylistically, you got Eileen Perez. She's a black belt in twerking, taking on Haley Cowan. How do these two match up?
Well, I haven't researched these twerking videos yet. I'll have to do that after the podcast. But I would say that Cowan she's the more well-rounded fighter of the two. She's the better athlete. But Perez, I think the biggest edge in this fight would be her in top control, because her on the regional scene, she's just mauling girls. She's getting on top in dominant positions, and she's staying there and finishing the fights with TKOs. And I like that, especially in women's MMA. You don't see that a whole lot. So if she can have her game plan work, she has a high ceiling in any win. And I definitely like that as an underdog. If she gets the win at 7,600, I have a hard time seeing her not 10x in this fight. Whereas Cowan, I think she probably wants to keep this fight on the feet. She's the better striker, in my opinion, but she might be able to have success in top control. Also, if she can get the fight on the ground, she could probably keep it there as well. I just think that the Perez upside is better. So I kind of favor Perez in this matchup. I think she can go out there and look dominant. If she does go and land a takedown in the first 60 seconds of the fight, she might end it in round one. So give me Perez, and you might hear her name from me later.
You'll be notice Big Marley's typing away as soon as we scroll away. He's like, Perez twerking videos. I got the stats up for you here, MonkMMAtics.
You just see Marley's eyes going like this.
Yeah, he's looking down. Neither one of these two in their UFC career, which has only been one fight each, throwing a ton of strikes per minute. Looks like 1.73 for Cowan, about the same for Perez. Not good. Takedowns a little bit higher, 1.5 for Perez. So both these girls probably going to try to do a little bit of grappling here.
Yeah, I'm gonna be siding with Marley on this one. First of all, I'm full disclosure, I don't know hardly anything about either of these women other than what I told you about Perez and how she's extremely annoying on Twitter for the most part. Haley Cowan, I heard that she was like a super gymnast. I assume, like Marley said, also that she will be the more athletic, and for that reason I'll favor her. But for DraftKings, I'll keep this one short. These women score like 2 points a minute. Perez scored 1.94 points a minute in her almost 10 minutes of fight time for all that shit talking that she did. And then Cowan scored 2.06 points a minute in her Dana White Contender Series fight, in which she won and would have scored less than 61 points. So I'm not really interested in this fight whatsoever. The only thing that intrigues me is Perez allowed 4 points a minute, and her opponent, Stephanie Egger, scored 110 in her submission win over Perez. I mean, I guess that's how I'd look to play Haley here. I guess that's why I would favor her. I don't know how much I'm going to get to, especially in like 20, maybe in like 150s, I'd have 10% Perez, maybe a little more Cowan, maybe double that for Cowan. But really, I'm not too interested in this one for DraftKings. I need one of these women to show me what's going on. And making your UFC debut at 31 years old in the women's bantamweight division is a big red flag for me. I think they just need fighters. So I'm picking Cowan. I'm not confident whatsoever, and I don't really like either for DraftKings.
Yeah, I think that's the best takeaway is just that neither one of these fighters has a notable win. Neither one. And when I say not notable, I mean you can't even really find a win against someone with a winning record or anything where you're like, oh, okay, they beat someone who used to be in the UFC. Nothing. They have neither one of them.
Pretty much the two worst strength of schedules on the card as well. I mean, it's not the two worst, but it's the two bottom five for sure.
This card. And another reason you could fade this fight is because of fights like the next one coming up that are actually exciting and actually could score well on DraftKings. So focus on those. Let's not try to, let me just do a little Geekmatics. Geek McMath, they call me. All right. If I how many times do I have to guess on a 50-50 proposition? A full guess, you only have so many shots at that before your chance of having 6 of 6 is like 1%. So let's not guess on this one, because straight guessing who's going to win, and they don't score well. So you're not only guessing who's going to win, but you've only had like a 10% shot of the winner of this fight actually scoring well enough to matter. That's the reason. Stay the fuck away, right? So next up, this is a fight that actually, Big Marley, is interesting for DraftKings. Rafael Alves taking on Nurilo Aliev. And both of these guys are action fighters. Can't wait to hear Monk's like points per minute scoring for these guys, because I would imagine it's going to be relatively high. The fight ends inside the distance prop here is -145. Not that high. And actually, I want to kind of go fighter by fighter because this Alves guy, yeah, TKO. Wait, Alves inside the distance. Let me see if I can find that. Alves doesn't win by decision.
Plus 330.
Yeah, plus 330 inside the distance. And Aliev inside the distance plus 160. Really solid numbers for Aliev. Stylistically, Big Marley, how do you see this one going down? How do these guys match up?
I would say that Alves is kind of a finish or bust type of fighter. He's explosive on the feet. He can get knockouts early in fights, and he's got solid submission skills as well. But he just slows down throughout the fight, and his opponents can start to take over. And I see him as more of a moment winner. If he's going to win this fight, it's going to be a knockout or it's going to be a submission. And then Aliev is our minute winner here. He's the guy who likes to get takedowns and dominate minutes on the ground. And that's just what I like to see on DraftKings. Somebody who can get a takedown and keep it on the mat for 4 minutes while they land 70 strikes on the ground. And maybe that guy gets back up and he lands another takedown. That's great. So Aliev is going to be my preferred play in this one. I always want some exposure to Alves when he's an underdog, because if he wins, he's probably scoring over 90 points with an early finish. And if he does that at 7,400, he's going to be on the optimal lineup. So just in case I want some Alves exposure, I'll probably be around field weight so that I don't get burned too much. But Aliev is the guy that I want some leverage on. I don't mind having him in almost half of my lineups this week, because I think he could get a decision win and score 100 plus, when he could always get a finish as well and score well that way too.
Yeah, I like it. MonkMMAtics, take a look at the numbers here. So Aliev is landing 3.25 takedowns per 15 and landing 6 strikes per minute. But when we match that up with the takedown defense of Alves has only got 60% takedown defense. This is generally a bad scene for the guy with the poor takedown defense and not much volume. So, but Alves, in fairness, very, very nasty striker. So it only takes one.
Exactly. And I don't know, I'd have to look closer at the stats, but I actually have Alves at 50% takedown defense, so it's even worse. The only stat that he's better in than Aliev so far, when you compare him, is the strength of schedule. It's fantastic for Rafael Alves fighting Drew Dober, DKC, and Damir Ismagulov. That guy's got like 2 losses in his career, and one of them is to Arman Sarukian. I'm with Marley again. I like Narulo Aliev here. 8,800, I think, is a good spot. Did score 5.78 points per minute, and 116 is what he would have put up against John Wick. Oh, sorry, definitely not John Wick. Josh Wick, rather, in the octagon. Pretty much the opposite of John Wick, it looked like, against Aliev. He only allowed 1 point per minute, but this fight was finished in the first round, so you can't really, take those stats with a grain of salt. Alves is more of the one I'm looking at. He only scores 1.83 points per minute. There's a lot of people on this card who do not score very well at all in DraftKings. In his one win, he put up 92 points. I'm not too interested. I mean, at 7,400, yes, that would probably land him on the optimal lineup. But I mean, I think Narulo's pressure, his wrestling ability, the rinse and repeat takedowns, the hopefully 70 ground and pound strikes, like Marley said, will A, win him the fight, B, win him the fight inside the distance, and C, put him on the optimal lineup. 13x of 8,800 is like 116, 117. With a guy whose game is like this, that's actually a possibility here against a guy like Alves, who gives up 3.5 points per minute. So again, another underdog who doesn't score well in DraftKings and is higher. He's $300 higher than his average salary is Alves. So I'm looking for Aliev to make a big splash here and hopefully make the optimal lineup in his UFC debut.
Yeah, I can totally see it. I do want to mention just with Alves that he is a big hitter, and he's out there doing crazy shit in the octagon.
That Dober fight was fun as hell.
Yeah, like he's doing like cartwheel kicks. He's kicking, he's on his hands, he's flipping, doing backflips, kicks and stuff. Like, this guy's pretty wild. Those guys, it's those type of guys, they sometimes can land a big shot, but if he's not doing that, Drew Dober has a chin. You can't knock him out. So that's, Drew Dober was never going down to this guy, but, he will put it on you. And so, I think he's live for a finish. I think you got to play him on DraftKings a little bit for that reason. But that's that's what I was looking for his KO prop. It's not great. It's not great. It's like plus 400, plus 350. So it's not great, but he's live. All right. Next up, this one's a bit of a stinker in terms of, analyzing it. Joe Selecki taking on Carl Deaton III. Selecki's a massive minus 550 favorite. Deaton III is plus 425. Big Marley. Is this a foregone conclusion?
I mean, I kind of thought of it that way because of the line. I watched one, maybe two Deaton fights, and I just saw that he prefers to get to the fight to the ground. There's really nothing special about him. And the ground is where Selecki wants to be as well. And I think Selecki is going to be better at getting it to the ground and doing, dangerous things on the ground. So I like Selecki to probably get a first or second round submission in this one. Deaton's only taking this fight on less than 2 weeks notice, something like that. So I didn't look too much into it. And I knew I wasn't going to bet Selecki at like minus 600. So I went ahead and I said he's probably a good win here, and he's probably going to get the finish. On DraftKings, he's 9,400. We got Tatiana Suarez, who we'll talk about, for 9,600. I definitely prefer Suarez if we're talking just raw points. We don't care about ownership. We don't care about money. Suarez is probably the better fighter because she's the better wrestler, can get the fight to the ground more often throughout the course of 15 minutes. But Suarez is $200 more. She'll be higher owned as well. So I don't hate Selecki as a pivot away from her. Just for ownership purposes, because he could go out there, get a first round finish, and just outscore her for $200 cheaper at less ownership. So I might end up with more Selecki than I would even like on this card because of that $9,600 price tag on Suarez. But man, it's going to be hard to pass up on clicking her name later.
Most definitely is. Monk, anything in the numbers here that catches your eye on this fight?
Yeah, the thing is, Selecki's not as good of a DraftKings scorer as I'd like him to be. I think this is a great cash smash spot. I think Selecki rolls here. Deaton is a decent fighter. He is 17-5, been finished only twice in those 5 losses. But Selecki should be a few levels above here and looking to get it done at the 9,400. I think he's a great cash spot, like I said. I'm worried, though. He beat Alex da Silva. That was an extremely close fight. That was a majority decision. So some judge ruled it a draw. And he was at 8,800. He scored 68 points against da Silva. He landed 1 takedown. He got knocked down, and he got out-controlled in that fight. Before that, he lost to Jared Gordon, which was a very close fight. He was the favorite at 8,300, and Gordon out-cardioed him and outclassed him pretty much everywhere. Before that, he's beaten Jim Miller in 2021, who's had a good run up until late. Then he beat Austin Hubbard and Matt Wyman. Hubbard and Wyman are the two big DK scores for him. 120 against Wyman, almost 104.5 against Hubbard. Since then, it's all gone downhill, guys. He scores decently per minute, but only 91 per win, and that's after you count those 2 huge wins I just rattled off. The only good thing is he is outscoring his opponents by almost 2 points a minute. He is more expensive than his average salary, and personally, I hate the $9,600 salary. I will be ignoring my own hate this week and absolutely smashing that spot. I like 9,400 for cash. The salary has an 8,300% or 83% win rate, I should say, 35% optimal rate. So there is a good chance that Selecki can make the optimal lineup, especially if Suarez doesn't do what I think she's going to do. But I guess for that reason, I'll have to have some Selecki, but I like him for cash much more than for GPPs. I think he gets outscored by people around him in this salary range.
Last week, Mayra Buena Silva.
Yeah, and I fucked up bad on. I had her out of most of my lineups, and she proved me wrong. She went against the grain. She went against every trend, every stat, which of course is going to happen. But yeah, I'm a stat and trend guy, so that did not sit well with me.
Listen, those trends and stats are made to be broken.
Yep,
reminder,
exactly.
You're watching the DFS Army MMA Kill Shot Fight Night, Krylov versus Spann. If you we're breaking down these fights. If you like a fighter and an underdog, especially a kill shot, who's your favorite kill shot on this card? You're watching this, drop that comment in the comment section below. Let us know who your kill shot is. Last week, by the way, an update on kill shots. I am now in we have a little contest going on since I returned to the show. 2-0. 2-0. I don't know what your records are. I don't pay attention to anybody else but myself. Keeping it real. Don't pay attention to other people. Just me. 2-0. Kill shots. Keeping it going this week. All right. Let's keep it going. Like and subscribe to the channel as well if you like this type of content. We got stuff coming out all day. I just broke down on the channel Jake Paul versus Tommy Fury.
I saw that was posted. I haven't seen your thoughts on it yet.
I got a breakdown on that thing. Yeah, I dove deep. Deep. I've watched 25 hours worth of Jake Paul podcasts for preparation for that breakdown.
Wow.
It was painful. It was brutal. I do it for the people, for the culture.
You're a man. I mean, you're a tougher man than I am.
I did it for the culture.
Man of the people.
For the culture. That's how we do it. All right. Next up. Here we go. O'Day Osborne taking on Charles Johnson. Johnson is the favorite here, coming in at minus 152 with a comeback on UFC veteran O'Day Osborne plus 132. Fight ends inside the distance, a decent minus 140, so slightly above par that this will end inside the distance. It's funny, O'Day Osborne, man, this guy was a finisher early in his career like no one else. But now his inside distance prop plus 400 for the finish, for the KO TKO. Johnson inside the distance plus 175. So there you have it. Big Marley. Johnson versus Osborne. How do these two match up?
Johnson is going to have the striking edge, I would say, in this matchup. He's going to be the more powerful striker, the higher volume striker, the more durable striker. And then Osborne, he can hang on the feet. He's pretty good on the feet. He's got finishing power on the feet. But I would give him the grappling edge. He just doesn't wrestle as much as I would like him to. So we probably do get mostly a striking match in this fight. And if we don't get a finish, I just don't think that either one of these guys is going to score well minute to minute. So I'll probably look to get away from this fight. And if it was a pick'em fight, I would have just picked Johnson to win because I think he probably wins more striking exchanges than not and gets it on the scorecards, maybe wins 2 rounds. But after seeing him as like a 2-1 favorite, I was like, I just can't justify any value on him. And I would rather take a chance on O'Day, who can win this fight anywhere. So I'd prefer the underdog in this one at 7,200. If he can win a decision, I think he's going to have a lot easier time paying off his salary than Johnson will at $9K, especially if Johnson's getting 0 takedowns throughout this fight. He could put up pretty high volume, and I think he scored like 86 points or something like that against Zalgauskas, which isn't bad, but at $9K, $8,600 is just not going to get it done. So give me the underdog to pull off a split decision win in this one.
Monk, so neither one of these guys are heavy grapplers. I guess O'Day averaging just under 1 takedown per 15 minutes. Takedown defense doesn't look very good for Charles Johnson here. Maybe that's worth something.
Yeah, well, Osborne's also his takedown accuracy is 14%, so not the best, but that will not sway me. I'm going to be on the Osborne side here for DraftKings. Just real quick with Charles Johnson, he lost to Muhammad Mokaev, got smashed. Mokaev scored like a mazillion points in that fight. No, he didn't get finished, and I guess people are praising him that he didn't get finished. Whatever, he got worked in that one. 12 takedowns, got controlled in 78% of the fight. He beat Zamagulov. That was an absolute robbery. That every fight Zalgas is involved in is an absolute robbery, and this was one of them. So I personally do not think he beat Zalgas Zumagulov. So there he is, 0-2 in my opinion. Then he fights Jimmy Flick, who is off for like 14 years. You know, since the Ice Age basically, and he knocks him out in the first round. It took him the whole first round. He scored 113.57. So I think all of his numbers are skewed just on the Flick fight. That's the only thing he's done in the UFC is Jimmy Flick. O'Day Osborne has 6 fights in the UFC. He scores 3.2 points a minute. Yes, he has terrible defense and gives up a ton of points, but Johnson's almost $900 more than his average salary. Again, another guy I don't trust. That's way more expensive than usual against Osborne, who's $1,000, almost $1,100 under his average salary. When he does win, he has an average value of almost 12, which is very close to 13, which if you listen to my stuff, you know that's the magic number of making the optimal lineup. You're absolutely right. when you say that this is going to be a striking battle, Osborne should take him down, but he won't. Both guys give up a ton of points. So for that reason, I'm going to have to roster this fight. I'll probably be on both sides, but I'm going to have much more Osborne because I think actually their ceilings are relatively close in my opinion. And one guy is $1,800 more than the other guy. So give me Osborne at 7,200. That's going to enable me to get to a ton of Suarez, maybe to get to some Selecki like I wanted at 9,400. So I don't like a ton of dogs at the low end. Osborne's going to be one of them that I'm going to have in my lineups.
The money people agree on Osborne. Anytime you can get, see, this needs to be part of it.
I'm trying to come up with a number that relates salary to the betting angle and something that makes sense.
Yeah, that needs to be part of it because, they salaried this guy based on like a plus 165, which is already really good for anybody that you're getting sub, really, I'm going to say sub like 7,900 on DraftKings, like, plus 165. That's usually where you're at your 77, 7,900. And they priced him based on that anyway. And for whatever reason, they priced him at 7,200. And now all the money, and I just want to point this out, has come in on O'Day Osborne here. And I think they're seeing what you saw, Monk, which was that Charles Johnson's record is mayhaps a little bit padded. Now, listen, Makayev isn't, he's doing this to anybody. He's doing the same
I think
shit.
Makayev's a beast.
Yeah, he's doing that to O'Day Osborne. Throw it out. Zaglas, the split decision, he's fine, but he's kind of, and we all thought Zaglas won that fight. By the way, I think
Zaglas is also like 5'4", and he almost won that fight.
Yeah, we all thought he won it. We were watching it. We all thought he won that fight. And then Jimmy Flick, so what has this guy really done? So O'Day has been in the UFC. He's got okay wins, and he's just too cheap for the kind of fighter that he is. By the way, he was a now again, Adeshayev is a turd. I get it. Some of these guys are pretty crappy, fine, but he's a real fighter, I think, and he's has wins against real opponents. Kind of.
More so than Charles Johnson.
Yeah, I'll give it Big Marley, kind of. I don't know. Sort of. It's good enough.
Nam's not a world beater. Adeshev, none of these guys are world beaters, but still.
Anyway, the line movement alone and the line odds cost tell you got to play a plus 130 who's 7,200. You just have to. There is no other option. That is what you got to do when you play on draft. How much ownership is O'Day going to have, Big Marley? At plus 130 now for 7,200.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to raise with the line. Yeah, he might be in a quarter of lineups or more.
I have him between mine and one other site, 32% so far.
So, yeah, we'll see where that falls, but he should be fairly high owned. All right, next up. Oh, man. Jordan Levitt taking on Victor Martinez. Levitt, a minus 115, minor favorite, minor, just a smidge. It's basically a pick 'em. Victor Martinez, minus 105. This is absolutely a stylistic matchup we got to go over. The fight ends inside the distance is a solid minus 205. And I suspect that Levitt by submission, let's see, plus 190. That's pretty good for a very, very specific kind of a prop, Big Marley. So how does this fight go down stylistically?
Yeah, clear striker versus grappler matchup. Levitt's going to need to get the fight to the ground. If he can, I think he probably dominates either minutes or gets a submission along the way, which I lean towards the submission. And if he can't get the fight to the ground, then Martinez is just going to piece him up on the feet and probably get a TKO along the way. So I love these even money striker versus grappler matchups because either guy has the chance to go out there and look like a minus 400, minus 500 favorite and just completely dominate the fight and score 90 plus 100 plus points on DraftKings. It's hard to know which guy that will be, but if you're making enough lineups, this is a good fight to be throwing into the pot here. I am going to side with the guy who's $200 cheaper and take Levitt. When I really don't have much of a lean, I always prefer the grappler, especially on DraftKings because that scores pretty damn good. But Martinez, what did he have? He had like 145 total strikes on Contender Series. He had a takedown as well. He won't be getting any takedowns in this fight. But before the Contender Series, he was getting taken down by lesser opponents than Levitt and really controlled on the ground for quite some time. So I think it's a pretty good matchup for Levitt, who really has no striking. He has to get the fight to the ground, but I'm going to take him to get a submission in this one.
I'm like disturbs me watching him when he tries to strike. It's upsetting. It makes me upset. I don't know why. It puts me in a bad mood.
It's getting better.
It upsets me. Monk, what do the numbers say here? Can this guy Martinez stop a takedown? When I talk about submissions, I like to see guys who get submitted a lot. They continue to get submitted. That is like a trend that happens in the UFC. This guy has some submission losses, but they were so long ago. I don't want to count him. Like what happened in 2011-12, this guy lost by submission. So what? 2012, I was still in diapers. Like, I don't fucking know.
I was going to say, were you even born yet? You just looked fantastic.
I was in elementary school back in 2011. So I don't know. It's a lot of time that passed since then.
Yeah. As far as that, I'm a stat guy who only really tracks UFC stuff. Martinez had a 75% takedown defense against Gonzalez. He did allow, looks like,
this is one fight
takedowns. Yeah, exactly. You can't really count that. 15 minutes. He did score 4.2 points per minute in that one. I'm leaning Martinez here, and if salaries would have come out a day earlier, he would be the $8,000 fighter. The line barely flipped right when salaries came out, so I was hoping to get Martinez at the $8,000 point. The breakdown for Marley was perfect. Levitt should go for takedowns. The problem is he just really doesn't. He had the one against Wyman that ended up knocking him out, but he's only beat Wyman, Sales, and then Trey Ogden, who's I think could be decent, but I'm not really sure. And that fight was extremely close. Split decision. Trey Ogden coming in for his UFC debut there. But Levitt did not look great against Piblet. He only landed one takedown in that fight. I don't know what Levitt's game plan is going to be, man. I don't really mind him. I know he gets a ton of hate. I don't mind him as a DraftKings fighter. He scores 3.5 points a minute, 95 per win, and his average salary is only 8,300. So at 95 points at 8,300 is a decent little number there. So I'm not mad at him for that. I'm just gonna lean Martinez. I think looking for the earlier type KO, first, second round. He can catch Levitt. I'm hoping. But yeah, if he gets taken down, what's this going to look like? So I'm with Marley. I'm going to have a little bit of both sides of this one. I'll probably be heavier on Martinez, though. That's where we differ a little bit because I hate the fact that he's a newcomer, and I'm backing more newcomers than I'm comfortable with in this week. But there is 7 of them, so what are you going to do? But like I said, I'll back Martinez, but I think you have to have Levitt for some takedown upside here.
Yeah, I agree across the board, except that I'm leaning a little more Levitt. I do think that Levitt can get a takedown here, and he's that type of fighter. If you watch him fight, he is good at what he does. He does the one thing, he does it pretty well, and if his opponent can't stop it, he drapes himself on you like a backpack. You know, and you get up and he's still on you. That's all he could. He's actually so bad at the striking part that he has no choice. If he can't get those takedowns, he's just kind of lost out there. It looks horrible. But when he is controlling his opponent, when he can, he also lacks strength. This is another problem with this guy. If he was a little bit of a stronger fellow, I think he could do it against more people than he's able to do it now. He just doesn't quite have enough strength to sort of, when his opponent is stronger than him. And you don't know it until they're in there together if that's going to happen here. You're I don't know. You mentioned Maximov. Maximov's supposed to be a wrestler. And you remember that fight where he just got out grappled and you're wow, he's just not as strong as that other dude.
One fight he lands 50 takedowns and then he gets 50 landed on him.
Yes, because he was not as strong as the other guy. And then the first one, he's stronger. And it's really hard to know. Big Marley, how am I supposed to know that before they get in the ring together? How do I know that?
I don't know. I think he tore his ACL or something in that fight where he was taken down a ton. So maybe it would have been different had that not happened. But yeah, I don't know.
Sounds like a lot of excuses.
I don't even remember it that great.
I'm only going to add here for the Martinez fight. In this DWCS fight, he did land a takedown He shot 1 of 2 takedowns. He landed it. Levitt has a 30%
Levitt will
takedown defense. He's been
he'll
taken
allow
down in almost every fight. Well,
No,
yeah,
he allows
exactly.
it. He
Wants to sub
purposefully
people, but
he
I mean,
purposefully he
like you
purposefully
said,
allows it.
if Victor can't be subbed, I mean, what's this going to look like? It's going to be a ground and pound spectacular.
He just allows it. Like when you want to go to the ground and somebody stupidly decides to take you down, you're like, okay.
Yeah.
Remember
Paul Craig.
Damian Maya? Like,
yeah, or
you
Maya.
try to take him down, he'd be like, oops.
But when that game plan doesn't work, your opponent makes the optimal lineup and you wake up about 20 seconds later.
That's true too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm leaning Levitt. But in this kind of fight, especially with a guy like Levitt who can't strike, you always have to have the other guy too, because if he can't execute what he wants to do, he's going to get pieced up on the feet. There's just really not other ways that it should go down. Unless it was last week and all of a sudden Aaron Blanchfield can strike out of nowhere. What happened, by the way, Monk. Stop trying to take your victory lap.
Shit. Oh, my titty fell out. Oh, shit, your titty
fell out.
Yeah.
Listen, what are you going to do?
Her titty's been out.
Tits happen.
Her titty's been out. Plus, it's 2023. We don't even care about tits anymore. You know what I'm saying? We're past it.
I want to put it away, and I lost my concentration. I think what happened last week was she was sipping margaritas, not expecting to fight, and she did not come out like the bat out of hell that I'm used to from Jessica Andrade. I'm sorry. That's what I saw. I stand by the play. I stand by the Andrade call.
Oh, Blanchfield. She should change her name to Beastfield.
She is. She looked. Listen, she's young and getting better. She could be the beast.
The
She's
top of the flyweight division in the women's flyweight is insane. It's insane, and that's why I'm glad Suarez is moving back down, because my God,
I like it. All right, next up, I don't know if this is the same way. I could say, speaking of flyweights, but I don't actually even know. Jasmine Jasudavicius taking on Gabriela Fernandez. Gabriela is the favorite here at -127. Comeback is +107 on Jasmine. Fight goes the distance, -240. Pretty classic numbers for a women's division fight, Big Marley. How did these two match up stylistically? I think we got a wrestler in the mix here, kind of.
Yeah, I would say that, I don't know, they're both fairly well-rounded, I guess. I mean, they're okay. But Fernandez, I would give the striking edge. She's got some solid kicks. She's even got good punches, too, when she throws them. She just doesn't throw as much as I would like her to. But she can really be controlled on the mat from one of the fights that I saw. And I only watched like 2 or 3. And then Jasudavicius, I'd say she's the more well-rounded one. She could probably hang on the feet here, but she's the one that I would give the wrestling upside to in this one. If she can go out there and get takedowns, she might be able to just keep the fight on the ground, score well by landing some ground and pound. Probably doesn't get a finish, but even in a decision win, she could probably 10x or more. So I'm going to be on the JJ side of this one. I didn't see anything from Fernandez to justify her being a favorite as a newcomer in this one. And I think it was a little bit of recency bias with Jasudavicius's last loss coming in as a big favorite, kind of got dominated. But that was against a fighter who we didn't know was going to be that good. Natalia Silva is just a really good fighter. We didn't see it pre-UFC. So I'm going to go back to JJ in this one. I think she can go get takedowns, win 2 rounds, score over 10x. So I'll probably fade Fernandez, to be honest with you.
I love that narrative. So everybody shitting on Jasudavicius because she loses to Silva. Silva goes on and gets another win and looks pretty good doing it. And like, hey, maybe she's not that terrible. I don't know if she's good, but maybe she's not that terrible. And here's the numbers, Monk. 2 takedowns per 15 for Jasudavicius. So we like for women's MMA, it's wrestling and willingness to grapple is like one of the ultimate. I need them to be willing to grapple. If she could get a takedown and she's willing and able, they don't even have to be that good at it. They just have to be willing to do it. And I'm already on it. I like it. So what do you say here? Especially on an underdog, we get some plus money.
100%. And this is going to come up again in just a few fights, the women and takedowns. I agree. I mean, I love that I'm on a bunch of sides with Marley here this week. Love being on the same sides as smart people. We don't talk about this beforehand and plan everything out. So it's good to be on the same side, especially with dogs here at 7,800. Jasmine Jasudavicius should be in more lineups for me than Gabriela Fernandez. Jasudavicius has the wrestling upside, almost a whole point per minute in takedowns and control time, double the control time compared to the takedowns, which you do love to see. You're just constantly, it's like a timer or something. It's just constantly racking up points when you get control time. She will land ground and pound as well. She doesn't score great, 2.5 points a minute, 85 per win, but a lot of that has to do with the beast that we found out that Natalia Silva is. I think she fought Teresa Bleda in her next fight and absolutely starched her for 2.5 rounds before she got an incredible spinning finish. In her first fight, she smashed up Kay Hansen when people thought Kay Hansen was going to beat up Double J here. So I'm going with Jasudavicius. There's no reason I need to keep talking about it for an extended amount of time, but she's also $500 cheaper than her average salary here, guys. Last thing I'll say, women's flyweight, second best weight class overall to target for DraftKings. It makes optimal lineup, I think, like 56% of the time. We've got 2 women's flyweights fights this week. Maybe we're going to get Double J and Suarez on the optimal lineup. Who knows? She only has to score 100 points to 13x.
I like it. 2 girls,
one optimal.
One optimal. That's how we want to do it. Jasudavicius is my pick as well, and I think that there is a little kill shot potential here with this one. So stay tuned till the end of the show where you hear our kill shots. Mine over the last 2 weeks are 2-0. Can't speak to Marley's or Monk's. I don't pay attention. I only keep track of my own.
1-1, baby. Let's go.
1-1. All right. I just track my own. Keeping it real.
I mean, you're taking like the 8K barely underdog.
Yeah, I'm down at the 70.
Jordan
I'm
Wright.
in the gutters, baby. 7,300s.
I'm trying to win. We got a bet going.
Not no
on,
not no $7,900 average.
Let me clarify. I'm here to win the money with the kill shot. And if you're watching this, first, make sure you smash the like button. Don't forget about that. You got to smash like this kind of content. We're breaking down not just UFC for DraftKings. You've got NASCAR going. You've got NBA going right now. I just did a boxing breakdown. You want to bet on the boxing, on the fights, on my boy Jake Paul? 30 hours of tape study on that one. That wasn't fun. I did it for you guys. Like, subscribe to the channel, and let us know who your kill shot is. A kill shot must be an underdog. Cannot be Blanchfield from last week, like the 70% owned underdog. We need a kind of low owned underdog on the card that wins, that no one's on, or at least that not too many people are on. The way you win DraftKings is not by picking Tatiana Suarez and Joe Selecki at minus 750 and minus 550 respectively. No, we win on DraftKings by getting 1 or 2 underdogs right and then throwing all the winners in from the upper class group. That's your kill shot. So let's take a look at the next fight, boys. Eric, I like this fight. I like this one. Eric Gonzalez taking on Trevor Peek. Gonzalez comes in at plus 175 as the underdog. Trevor Peek minus 210 as the favorite. And gentlemen, this fight promises violence. There will be blood. Minus 515. Fight ends inside the distance. Big Marley, is this a fight where you must have one or the other side of it? Because if you don't, you're not going to win any money.
See, I don't know. I was kind of thinking that earlier. I've only made one lineup so far, and that's what it was kind of coming down to. I was like, I didn't have this fight in there, and I was like, wait, I feel like I probably need that fight from one side or the other. So I was going back and redoing my lineup.
If you don't feel like you need it, then we should be betting the fight goes to decision at plus, 400.
Yeah, I mean, well, I would say maybe on the underdog side we don't, but at the same time, if he wins this fight, even if it's getting his ass kicked for around 2 rounds and then winning late, he's still probably going to score enough to be on the optimal. So, yeah, I don't know. I haven't really got to this yet on my breakdown, but that's kind of where I'm thinking is we probably do need this fight. Trevor Peek, all 7 of his wins are by knockout. This guy, every single punch he throws or kick he throws is trying to take his opponent's head off. And he's pretty good at doing it. Even when he's going for takedowns, he's not just going for some little double leg. He's trying to slam his opponent. He's putting everything he has into everything he does in the cage. And it turns out, I mean, it usually turns into his opponent sleeping pretty much in the first or second round. And that is very well what could happen here against Eric Gonzalez. I really didn't see anything from Gonzalez that impressed me, but I would say he's the more technical striker. He's the one that's throwing more straight down the pipe, whether it's punches or front kicks, where Peak is throwing these loopy punches, just trying to kill you. And maybe that will work out into Gonzalez's favor. Just while he's throwing a punch, he gets countered with something straight, and Gonzalez gets the early knockout. But I think for Gonzalez, it would be more of weathering a first-round storm, because Peak is super aggressive. And if he can, hang in there through the first and second round, maybe he can come back and win in the third just by having the better cardio. We just don't know what Peak is going to look like if he gets extended against a decent fighter. But I'm going to take Peak to go out there, get another early knockout, just because I don't think Gonzalez is the guy. But I hope he looks impressive doing it, because Peak's a guy I wouldn't mind betting against moving forward.
Monk, take a look at these numbers. 7 strikes landed per minute for Peak. That's more than one fight. Oh no, that's just the one. It's just the one. 7 landed per minute. Egon's only 3. Peak also goes for takedowns. Both guys go for takedowns. They're grapplers. There's grappling involved. Neither one can stop a takedown. It seems like a DraftKings fantasy points bonanza.
It really could be. I'm not on either of these guys as far as their offense. I'm personally rooting for Gonzalez because I think Peak might be like not a good person if you do your internet research on him.
No, I have not done that.
Yeah, he's I think Cody Safdie had to like lobby to like get this dude out of prison or on parole or something is what I'm hearing. Yeah, he's not he's a very tough person to root for. We'll just put it that way.
He's got the based on the picture, he's got those beady criminal eyes.
Yeah, we do those shifty eyes.
Yeah,
but that's not how we're actually capping fights. I do notice a fantastic tattoo on Gonzalez out of has he always had that? That thing looks crazy. But these guys give up a ton of points. Gonzalez gives up 6.5 points a minute. Peak gave up almost 7 points per minute in his 7.5 minutes in his Dana White Contender Series fight. He would have scored 4.5, 103 in that win. Like you said, neither guy can stop a takedown. Gonzalez gives up 2 points a minute in takedowns and control time. Peak gave up over 3.1 points per minute in those categories when he fought against Malik Lewis. Gonzalez actually hurt McKinney in his fight there, but then got dealt with, and then Miller bonked him first thing in the second round. There's an interesting thing when fights are supposed to like, oh, this fight's like minus 500 to finish inside the distance lately. What's happened? Last week it was Jordan Wright and William Knight. Both guys are now cut, but that went the distance. Neither guy scored very well. Wright made the optimal lineup at like 49 points and a loss. The week before that, I forget who it was.
It was Crute and Minifield.
Crute and Minifield. That one goes to a draw. Someone's making the optimal. Like that one's going to a draw. What happens? Well, the lower salaried guy actually scores better. That's how I'm going to go to play this one here. Like, I don't know. I mean, I don't have anything positive to say about Gonzalez other than he has 3 times the fights that Trevor Peak does professionally. So I would assume way more experience. If Peak doesn't finish this dude early, which he really could, but if it doesn't happen, like Marley said, what's this going to look like in the second round? This could easily go the distance. And if it goes the distance, I want my money and my DraftKings leverage on the $7,300 Ghost Pepper side. So Peak's probably going to smash here because Gonzalez is terrible, but Peak might also be terrible. The ownership, 33% Peak, 3% Gonzalez. I completely disagree with. So give me Peak for the win, I guess, but I'll be heavier on Gonzalez probably. These guys both are terrible, and they're both allow so many points. I don't even know what to do here.
Yeah, I do think this is a fight to target. Like those other fights had some red flags, right? William Knight isn't super active. And we got one coming up with red flags like that where, yeah, there's a high inside the distance. Like every Alonzo Menifield has a high
inside the Tyson Pedro Bukowskis fight. That's the one I was thinking. That one was supposed to get finished early.
Oh, yeah.
Went the distance, lower ranked, lower salaried guy wins the fight.
That was poison.
Scores better.
DraftKings poison. This one, though, I'm going to say again, both have high grappling propensities. So and the way that Peak fights, 7 strikes per, like, he is just crazy out there. And those type of guys, they are killer be kill. I don't see how. I think this one will end inside the distance is what I'm saying. I think a lot of that inside the distance prop is just more based on Peak's craziness than Gonzalez's style. I think it's just Peak, just like he's such a nutbag that it's going one way or the other. I like them both. I like both sides. You got to load up on that one. Got to load up. All right. Next up, talk about going from fire to ice. Ugh. From that craziness, the next up we've got Mike Malott taking on Johan Lenace. And Lenace is like competing with Knight for boring action in the octagon right now. Malott minus 220. Lenace, am I pronouncing his name right? Lenace?
I think so.
Lioness?
I say Lenace.
I think it's Lenace. Plus 180. Let's take a look at the inside the distance prop on this one, if it ever loads. Should have clicked that before. Fight ends inside the distance. See, this is the one, Monk, that's going to burn you. It's minus 300 to end inside the distance, right? This has all the makings of a Menefield night fight, Big Marley, because I'm pretty sure that my boy Johan Lenace threw like 10 strikes in his first. Like, look at this. Okay, he's through 3 fights, averaging 2.6. This is not a good scorer, Big Marley. 2.5 strikes per minute. No finish, no money. That's how it goes. No money. Marley, no speaking, no money. That's how we do the podcast.
Yeah, I am not a fan of Johan over here. I don't like when anyone's wasting, enough cage time where they're going to put it in the hands of the judges and then give them a chance to be robbed. But somehow Johan, I'm just going to call him Johan, he landed 24 total strikes in his last fight and somehow got the judges to think he won the fight. And I'm pretty sure I bet on the other guy, so I'm still a little salty about it. But I'm just never going to pick somebody like that. He could go out there, crack this guy in the first round, score 100 points, maybe in the first 60 seconds and break the slate. But if he doesn't get a first round knockout, he's just going to slow down throughout the fight or just not do anything minute to minute. He's not going to score well. So I'm going to fade Johan basically every single time out. I'll fade the puncher's chance in this one. Hope it doesn't happen. I like Mike Malott in this one. I think he's just better everywhere, better minute to minute. He only was in the cage for 3.5 minutes in his debut, and he landed more than 24 total strikes. So I like him to be our minute winner. I like him to be the moment winner on the ground, and I also like him to possibly get a knockout of his own. So this is going to be Malott or pass for me, and I really hope I don't get burned with a first-round knockout. I just really don't like this Johan guy.
I mean, that's how he burns you, right? Minus 300 inside the distance prop. He just like knocks him out. What do you say? What do you say, Monk?
Yeah, he made himself impossible to play for DraftKings. I mean, Marley said it, 23 strikes. This guy scored 0.66 points per minute in his fight against Darian Weeks, which went all 15 minutes. That's the lowest number I've ever seen. He scored 39.91 in his win. You get 30 for the win. He scored 9.91 points in 15 minutes. I am not interested. I said it in my show. This fight shouldn't even be allowed to be rostered. He should be kicked out of the DraftKings player pool after that last. Like, seriously, we should not be able to roster him no matter what happens. He could come out here and bonk Malott because Malott might be fraudulent. We don't know. He has 1 win over Mickey Gall, who
by the way,
is
and
terrible.
And the Contender Series win also completely not somebody that is credible or anything. So I have no idea. He's
been bonked. Like, Johan's got power. That's what he does have. He has power. He just doesn't throw punches. Malott has been chinned before, so I don't like Malott a lot. I should say at 9,200 especially. I like 9,100 better. I like 9,600 better. I might like 9,400 better. But the one thing Malott does have is a super high ceiling. But again, this is only from his fight against Mickey effing Gall, who again is terrible.
Well, he's less
Malott,
terrible in 2022 than he was in 2019.
Possibly. Who'd he beat? CM Punk?
Yeah, but he had a real fight. I feel like
Lost
Mickey
to
Gall.
Diego Sanchez?
I remember that.
Well, bro, like, I mean, Mike
I thought
Malott's
he was
strength of
piecing
schedule
up.
is terrible.
I thought he was piecing up. What's that guy? Mike.
I mean, he beat Solomon Renfro. There we go.
Yeah, he had a real. Mike. I thought he was winning against Mike Perry for a lot of that fight.
Mike Perry's never losing to Mickey Gall. Not today and not ever.
It was pretty close.
Oh, God.
It was close.
Yeah, Mike Malott's stats are crazy high. I'm throwing them all out the window. I will be playing him because I think he can get a finish. Lenace probably sucks. But again, this fight is, what'd you say, minus 400 to finish ITD? This could easily go all three. The winner scores 70 points, and you're left holding the bag. So, I mean, if it's a catch-22. If you don't play Malott at 9,200, he could literally finish Lenace in the first minute. If you do play Malott, he could score 60 points or lose.
Let me tell you something. I'm fading Malott.
You gotta fade this fight.
Fuck
You
that
gotta.
guy.
Exactly.
By the way, Mike Malott looks shockingly like my old college roommate, Big Earn.
Well, shout out to Big Earn. I mean, it's Canadian versus Canadian here.
Big Earn is Cuban. Looks exactly like this guy. If you're out there, bro.
Which is weird because they must have he must have put tanner on in that picture because that dude is as white as I am.
This guy is white. No, I meant my buddy Big Earn.
Oh, I don't know Bigger, but Mike Malott is white.
But white skinned as anybody. Like, Cubans can be as white as anything. They're just it's a very diverse place. Anyway,
I said I'm going to fade Johan, but I also said earlier I'm probably going to end up making 150 lineups this week. I probably won't fully fade him with 150 lineups, but there's no chance that he'll end up in my single entry.
Let me put it like this with Johan. He's cheap enough that if he does
mess with him.
If he does land a kill blow.
Yeah, because it would be a real kill shot if he gets his first round knockout.
Yeah. And by the way, guys like that, when he's a careful fighter, the way that Johan Lenace is, and he's a careful fighter, I'll give him that. They usually don't get destroyed quickly, which is why I think Malott can be ignored. And, if Tatiana Suarez is on a card and Joe Selecki has an easy fight and they're all in the 9K range, I'm not playing this guy for 9,200. Who the fuck is he? Get out. Win something before I'm paying premium dollars for you. Win something, Mike Malott, Big Earn. Hell no.
I'll end up with some Malott too, probably more than Johan, but I doubt he ends up in the single entry either.
I hate that we have to play this fight. I hate it.
You got to play Johan. Johan is the better side. I know it's fucked up. He is the better side of this fight.
I actually prefer Malott just because of a pivot away from the other people.
That's your reason. And listen, if I had pivoted over to Myra Buena Silva last week, I might have won a tournament. I wouldn't even be here on the show. I'd be rich. I'd quit.
Exactly.
Tell my fucking boss, take this job, stick it. Gone.
You are the boss. So you know.
No, Bobby's the boss. All right. Tatiana Suarez taking on Montana De La Rosa. Man, did they give her a cupcake to come back to? I'm obsessed with Tatiana Suarez. Has she ever not been part of the nuts lineup when she was on the card? Let's start there. What is her nuts rate?
I only tracked back to 2020. I only tracked back to 2021 because the scoring before that was abysmal. But
she was from
at
before
least that. At least four times, I would guess that she was the nuts. 4 out of 5 minimum.
Yeah, and maybe 5 out of 5. This is a nuts machine. She fucking juggles nuts in her hands, spits them out, does all of that. She's a nuts machine.
She is.
She's going to be in the nuts again on Saturday. Count on it, especially against Montana De La Rosa. So anyway, minus 750 Tatiana, plus 525 Montana. Goes the distance, minus 140, which I don't know if that's good or bad, because you give me 3 full rounds of Suarez just getting Marab Dawashvili on it. She's getting machine all over it. Big Marley, she's getting Marab on her. Can we turn Marab into a verb? Like, she's just Dawashviliing this girl into scoring bonanza.
Or is Marab Tatianaing these people, huh?
That's fair. I'm pretty sure I saw Marab Tatianaing it with some girls out on a lake. Out in
Rob's living his best life.
Yeah, I mean, I saw some Instagram pictures of Marab with some sixes just out on the on the rafts doing a little whitewater rafting. Like girls that look like I expect these guys to be celebrities hanging with like Instagram models. Nope. I'm going for regulars. Look like somebody that you probably knew in high school.
Tiger Woods was
hanging out with.
Tiger Woods was going to Denny's, bro.
Yeah, but he was bringing, super hot like blonde chicks with him.
Yeah, he also brought the chick from Denny's, though.
Yeah, he would go to Hooters to pick up women. He'd get the Hooters girl, and then they'd be Tiger's girlfriend.
As you call them, the regulars, man. That's
regulars.
Maybe that's where it's at.
The regulars don't work at Hooters. They're like, the next level are at the Hooters girls, and then of course you have your regulars, you have your dating app girls, which are below the regulars. Then you've got your Hooters girls. Then of course OnlyFans and strippers, Insta models.
We're going off the rails here.
And then actresses. Actresses being the highest. On the crazy matrix, there's a point here where you get that crazy hot matrix. It's the OnlyFans ones that are in the scary zone. Like, oh, hot, but no, stay away. Not worth it. Not worth it, Big Marley. Not worth it.
Yeah.
Fuck around and find out.
Back to this fight, though.
Let me know. Suarez.
Put your in the comment section. How do you feel about Hooters girls? Are they on the crazy or what side of the matrix are they on? Comment. All right, go ahead, Marley.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be Suarez or pass for me. Montana De La Rosa, she's a pretty good wrestler, solid grappler. When she gets into top control, she can kind of dominate fights. It's just that she's not going to be the better wrestler in this one. She's not going to be taking Suarez down. And when she gets taken down, she's not going to have anything to offer off her back against somebody like Suarez. I would give the Suarez the striking edge too in this one. But that's kind of my worry, is that maybe she does have the striking edge and she doesn't go out there and get 10 takedowns in this one. 12 minutes of top control time, and she wins a 3-round striking based decision for $9,600. That would suck. $9,600, also not our favorite price tag, I believe. Monk will talk about that, I'm sure. But God, it's hard not to click on Suarez because she's probably the best wrestler we've ever seen in WMMA, and she should be able to take down whoever she wants whenever she wants to. She could go out there, get 5 to 10 takedowns, control the fight for 13 minutes, and score 130 points in a 3-round fight. So, I definitely like Suarez. She's my favorite play on the card if I can afford her, but I would guess she's going to be the highest owned fighter on the card as well. So that might keep me – I don't know what the hell I'm going to do with Suarez. She is in my single entry right now, but when I do my 150 lineups on the DFS Army Domination Station Optimizer, if I put in numbers and it gives me 35% Suarez, I don't know that I'm going to adjust it to get more. I don't know. I might just let the DS decide. I'll put in my own, not my own projections, but I will adjust projections to how I like them. And if I end up with people who are priced lower than her, then I'm kind of okay with it, just because we haven't seen her in 4 years. We don't exactly know what to expect here, but I'm still going with Suarez to smash and either dominate all 3 rounds or get a finish.
Yeah, I feel confident. I know what to expect. And, it's going to be a takedown fest as usual. 6.47 takedowns per 15 minutes, Monk. Against a girl whose takedown defense, not that good. Montana De La Rosa is a bit of a grappler herself, but, she's going to be out-strength, out-grapplered, out-skilled, everything in all facets in this fight.
Yeah, excuse me. There's levels to this, and I've been choosing to use Jailton Almeida as a verb, as in she's going to get absolutely Jailton Almeida here. If you recall, he has made the optimal lineup every single time he's been in the cage. The dude is at 9,600. He makes optimal. 9,700. He makes optimal. Guys, it is a terrible salary. 9,600, as Marley alluded to. It's made optimal lineup 3 out of 18 times. That is a terrible, terrible number. If anyone can do it, it is Tatiana Suarez. I personally don't care about the, and I might look like a fool after this if she does just strike, but I don't see how that's possible. She has some of the best numbers out of any man, woman, or child that's ever fought in the UFC. 6.11 points a minute, 119 per win. She allows 1.13 minutes back at her. That's it. That's a differential of 5 points. She has the highest ceiling on the entire card. When she wins by knockout or TKO, 156 is what she got against Carla Esparza. I think she used to be the champion, and I think she has a decent wrestling game as well. When she wins by sub, 112. When she wins by decision, 107, guys. Montana De La Rosa might be a decent grappler. She's nowhere near the level of Tatiana Suarez, who hasn't been doing nothing for 4 years. Her and Patchy Mix have been, I was going to say going at it, but that is probably is true, but that's not how I mean it. I mean, just working their wrestling game constantly. Suarez is going to beat Montana De La Rosa however she wants. If this finishes inside the distance, great. I'd almost rather it go to decision because I really want to see how high she can score. I think she could she can score 170 points in this fucking fight, man. She only needs 128 to 13.3x at 9,600. I think that is easily doable. That's almost her average per win. I'm going to, you tell me Suarez is 40-50% owned. I'm going double that. I might just lock. I might just lock her.
It's a lock button situation. You could lock button this one. You know how it doesn't work?
I don't think you can lock button a 3 out of 18 just out of prices alone. Like, you just might not be able to afford her.
But
my striking narrative, that's more like a devil's advocate thing. I don't think she's going to go out there and strike for 3 rounds, but I think she could go out there and win in the first round, score 105 points, and just get outscored by 3 other people.
True. That's true.
Carpenter.
Sometimes at 9,600, you get Tatiana Suarez, and sometimes you get guys like Damon Jackson. You know, there's like sometimes the name, sometimes you have to take, and this is from a stat guy. I love my salary voodoo. A 3 of 18 is garbage. I fade 9,600 almost every time. I just can't. Maybe I'm going to be wrong. I just can't in this situation. I think her game lends itself to the highest score on the card every single time. I can't pass that up.
I just don't personally. I don't really like the super cheap underdogs this week, so I don't know how the DS is going to let me get 100.
True.
You can't hate.
I'm gonna like.
You can't hate plus 130 O'Day.
Yeah, I don't hate him, but I also just don't like him if he doesn't get a finish. I just don't
you just won't get any Malott with this. You won't get any Suarez Selecki. You can barely get any Suarez Muniz. But if you miss out, if you don't put her in, you might literally miss out on 150
I don't know what the hell
points.
I'm going to do with Suarez yet.
It should also be noted she's the number 1 wrestler, 2.16 points a minute in takedowns, 1.35 per minute in control time. Also the number 1 striker on the card, 2.6 points per minute in just striking. She's number 1 across the board.
She's a bad bitch. And I just want to mention, because you mentioned my boy, Junior Almeida, Jelton Almeida. You know, I had a bet with Brett Apley. That Almeida would be the champ. After his debut, I said, this guy is going to be the champ at 205 within, 18 months. It's not going to be a long burst. Well, Jelton screwed me because now he's a heavyweight. What the hell happened there? I'm like, come on, bro. You had this. I think he had a better shot at 205 than he does at heavy. I think he should go back down. Who's
double champ, baby?
Who's good at 205?
He's about to fight what's his name?
Jairzinho Rosenstruik.
Like, why would you want to be in there with Rosenstruik?
A guy that can't wrestle. He's gonna smash Rosenstruik.
I still think Almeida should be the champion of whatever the hell division he's fighting in.
I love him. Him and Shavkat are my 2 favorites.
And who's your other one?
Shavkat Rakhmonov next week, baby. Shavkat fight week. Let's go.
I like him too. All right. Of course, I love Suarez, to be clear, and I'm probably going to have her in just about every lineup that I make this week. I think, Monk, you don't just look at the price. You got to look at the score. So, like, tell me how often somebody who scores 120 but is expensive didn't make it. Because you're right. Damon Jackson puts up the 102 and whatever and these types. But there's nothing that I mean, Tatiana could conceivably get a takedown and a submission fast. That could happen.
Just like Marley said, he's not wrong at all. And then
100%.
you're stuck. And then you're
yeah,
stuck.
and then you're fucked. Then
she
you're
scores
fucked. So-
105, you're effed. But she also has the highest ceiling, and if you don't play her, it's like not playing RDA when he was 72 or something like if she scores 150, you're just like sad, Mr. Sad Boy.
It's Merab. Merab does this.
Yeah.
You can't not play Merab when he's on the card. He only burned me once in my entire Merab all-in history. That was the Dodson fight, and he won that fight.
Mm-hmm.
But it was Dodson. All right, accept it. Move on. Okay. Coco main event. Dontel Mays taking on. I love this fight. Taking on Augusto Sakai. Mays comes in as a plus 115 underdog. Sakai line moving. He is now minus 135. And I'm going to give a little spoiler alert, gentlemen. I normally like to save these from a sharp app people, but I'm going to share some information here. I did bet Augusto Sakai at minus 125. Beat the line. It's minus 135 now. Save 10 cents.
I beat you. I got him at minus 115.
You know what? I thought of it at minus 115, but by the time I clicked the button,
I thought of it when it was opened as an underdog, but it wasn't on DraftKings. It was on, I don't even know where the hell it was open.
Yeah, see, I thought about it, but then once I put the bet in, it was 125. So good job and good to know. Little spoiler right there. And I just want to get the inside the distance prop here, and then I'm going to tell you why I bet it. But the inside the distance prop here is a solid minus 170. Considering this is heavyweights, it's kind of to be expected. I don't know that this actually does end with a finish or not. I'm not super confident in that outcome. Now, that being said, I just want to talk about the records of these two gentlemen. And there is a pattern here that I noticed that I do like to fade. So let's first take a look at Dontel Mays. And listen, I watched Dontel Mays' fights. This guy, he actually knocked a guy out with his penis in a fight. And you don't see that.
He humped Josh Parisian to death.
Yes. And it was the first time I ever saw that knockout by baby's arm. It was like whap, 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 whap. It was awesome. But with that being said, look at his wins. Roque Martinez, this guy looks like a basketball. Like if a basketball came to human life form, that's Roque Martinez, right? He's a little round pudgy ball. And then Josh Parisian, who we just saw, absolutely sucks, right? This is not a UFC fighter. So his two fights and wins, Dontel Mays, were against the worst of the worst. All of them would beat my ass, admittedly, but the worst of the worst in terms of UFC fighters. And so he's getting more respect than he should because he's coming off of wins, but he's winning against the worst. Now, the flip side, and again, this is some, geek math here, but Augusto Sakai has real wins against actual opponents that win in the UFC. And I'm talking about Andrei Arlovsky, who is the determinator of if you're at least level enough to be in the UFC, right? And then Marcin Tybura, Blagoy Ivanov, perfectly decent guys who get wins in the UFC on occasion. Who are his losses to? Tai Tuivasa, who is essentially, now fighting at the top of the division. Rosenstruik, top of the division guy. Overeem in 2020, still a guy with power in his hand. And actually, I thought he was beating Overeem until literally the last second, until the punch that ended it. And Sergey Spivak, who's beaten Black Beast. His losses are against real fighters, real UFC talent. Wins against actual UFC fighters that have wins in the UFC. To me, it's crazy. Big Marley, I don't understand the numbers.
But yeah, he has 4 losses in a row. A lot of recency bias in the line. We saw the Mays win over Parisian, where he landed a bunch of takedowns, looked good on the ground, and we've seen that Augusto Sakai looks bad off of his back against people who can wrestle. So I think that's why they opened the line in Mays' favor. But yeah, I mean, he's been fighting the top of the division. That's just what happens. I've never been a big Sakai guy. I don't know. I probably didn't pick him in any of those fights. This might be one of the first times I'm going to pick Sakai to win. I'm just less of a Mays guy. I think that Sakai can stuff takedowns or even get his own. Like, Sakai's really bad off his back, but so is Mays. If Mays gets taken down here, Sakai can have success of his own. But I think Sakai probably keeps it against the cage, makes this a boring fight, wins the striking exchanges for the most part. Yeah, I just favor Sakai like 60% or so. So I liked the line earlier. I think it's catching up now, though. You got to get the value while it's still there, if there is any. But yeah, give me Sakai to get back on track here. I think that his upside, though, would be a knockout. These guys are heavyweights. It could take one shot. I don't think he'll go out there and land takedowns. But if he did, I think that would be where he could possibly score, just because Mays can't really do anything defensively. So I'll take Sakai to win. I don't really love this fight for DraftKings, though, because I don't see either one doing a whole lot minutes a minute in this one.
No, that is a concern, and I'm not in love with it as a DraftKings fight either. Monk, how do you see this one going down?
I am on the complete opposite side. There's no way in ever that I could bet on Augusto Sakai, that I could roster Augusto Sakai in any kind of lineups. Yeah, he has. I was going to say, you say, look at Dontel Mays' wins, Roque Martinez, Josh Parisian. Hamdi Abdelwahab actually just got suspended for use of all of the best steroids that he could find in the Caucasus Mountain region. So that is now not a loss. It is a no contest right there. And his other two losses in his last 5 are to Rodrigo Nascimento, who subs everyone, and someone named Cyril Gane, who's better than every single person you guys listed that Sakai has fought.
Most definitely.
And also, you say, you look at Dontel May's wins. Look at Augusto Sakai's wins. Oh, wait, there aren't any, because he's been knocked out 4 times in a row. And now he's fighting someone who trains with Walt Harris, John Bones Jones, way more athletic than Augusto Sakai. Augusto Sakai is like Derek Lewis without the knockout power. There's nothing left. He scores 1.91 points a minute. 66.5 is what he scored against Blagoy Ivanov, which he won 3 years ago. Tatiana Suarez was probably still fighting when he got his last win. So I honestly don't see where all the Sakai love is. I think Mays could not only win this fight, but finish this fight. He's going to be in a bunch of my DraftKings lineups. And also, he humped a guy to death. Did we say this already? He humped a man to death. So yeah, I like Mays here. I could never back Sakai, even at I think it's crazy he's the favorite in this position, to be honest.
The hump was awesome. I think we can all agree. I haven't seen it before, and we might see it in the future.
You might see it on Saturday. Who knows?
If we see a hump on Saturday, that's going to be glorious. That's going to be glorious. We'll see. But yeah, I agree with you on this point. I don't like Sakai as a DraftKings play at all. I don't really see it. I don't mind Mays. If I had to choose one on DraftKings, I'd probably lean Mays. A, you're getting a little bit of dog money on him. And B, at least he does have a takedown or two. But, how much is a hump to the face worth on DraftKings, Big Marley? Is that a significant strike?
I don't think they have added it since that fight, but maybe we'll get some quick refreshment this week, and I don't know. We'll see.
It's like taking one of those mini bats.
I would imagine it's significant, though. Right?
In this scenario, it should have been about 69 points. If you
ever go to the baseball game on mini bat day, where they give you those little bats? That's like what Parisian was getting hit in the head by. It was like,
boy hasn't been right since.
He just went to sleep. That's why he looks so bad in his next fight. All right. Who else is envisioning like those little bats that you get at bat day at the stadium? Why do they give out?
They don't do that.
Why would they give you a weapon?
They don't do that anymore
At a sporting event, like if they gave that out if they gave that out at an Eagles game, there'd be murders like in the building. 76ers are playing in Philly.
No.
There'd be murders in the building and then outside.
They threw batteries at Santa.
The crime rate in Philly went up, 1,000% because it's bat day, on the Phillies. They gave out a bunch of weapons and everybody left just like, oh, okay, let's go do criminal things. Anyway, let's go commit crime. All right. This one's gone off the rails. Second to last card, co-main event, sort of. We've got Andre Muniz taking on Brendan Allen, with Muniz coming in as a minus 230 favorite. Come back on Brendan Allen plus 190. The fight ends inside the distance prop, is a solid minus 225. Big Marley, how do these two fighters match up?
I would say that Brendan Allen is the more well-rounded fighter. He can pretty much do anything. He's pretty okay on the feet. He can get takedowns. He's solid grappler. And he would have the edge on the feet in this fight, in my opinion. But the biggest edge in this fight is going to be Muniz's grappling. He's probably got the best grappling. I would say he does have the best grappling in the entire division. The guy submitted Jacare, which you just don't do. So I definitely think the line's about right. I actually pre-capped this one. I've been doing DraftKings Rainmakers this year since it started this year. And I was looking at upcoming fights to see if I could find any deals on cards. I looked and I saw that Muniz was fighting Brendan Allen, but there was no line on it yet. And I was like, he'll probably be, minus 200, minus 230 there. I went and looked at his cards. They were like under $300. So I grabbed 3 of them. I already sold 2 of them for like $300 profit. I sold a Selecki for like $400 profit. So I'm in the money on this card no matter what. Thank you, DraftKings Rainmakers.
I saw that on Twitter. Yeah, that you're working the Rainmakers like
it's my flip game right now. Yeah. I'm just trying to cap these fighters ahead of time and just get ahead of the curve. And I'm glad it worked on that one because I really don't see any more value to soak out of Muniz in this one. I'm not trying to bet him at minus 200. I think the line's right, no value. And on DraftKings, I think he could go out there, get a first round submission and still not end up on the optimal lineup. But that's what I'm going to pick is Muniz to either win this fight by submission or grind out 2 rounds on the scorecards. And he probably scores 95 or less points. So I like the other 9, not all the other 9K fighters more, but I like other 9K fighters more than I like Muniz. And I think Allen will be just too owned for my liking. I don't think he's going to have the success he'll need to win this fight. Even if he does, I think it would be the knockout that would really send him into the optimal lineup. So I'll probably end up fading Allen depending on the ownership. If he's one of the more chalky underdogs, I will fade him. If he's 15% owned, then I'll get some Allen exposure because I think it could be a close fight. But give me Muniz just to be the better grappler and get the win that way.
How is Allen's counter wrestling? I mean, he did get the W against Jacob Malkoun, who's a pretty nasty wrestler, I guess.
He's okay. I was a little, I don't know. I would say I'm less than impressed. I thought it would be better than it was, but I don't know. This will be a good test, I guess.
Yeah, this is the test. I mean, I think that's how this fight goes down, isn't it? If Allen can stop the takedowns, he's probably going to win.
You got a real chance, yeah.
Yeah. Monk, how do you see it going down?
I see Allen not being able to stop the takedowns. That's the thing here. Allen's got a very decent ground game, but I think Muniz is just better everywhere. The only big issue I'm concerned with is his cardio. So hopefully he's been working on that. And I do think Allen is going to be the chalkiest underdog that you could possibly play. People are going to be looking to counteract their Tatiana Suarez, their whoever's at 9,400 Selecki with someone cheap. And I think they're all going to be looking to Brendan Allen, to be quite honest. He is 4-1 in his last 5 with some decent wins. I personally don't like the Malkoun decision. He did land 7 takedowns on Allen. Muniz might land more takedowns than that on Allen. And if he doesn't, he has a significant control time advantage. Let's just say this. If Muniz doesn't land more takedowns than Jacob Malkoun did, it's because he's controlling the shit out of Brendan Allen and possibly, not possibly, working towards a submission at all times. He scores well over 2.2 points per minute in takedowns and control time, does Andre Muniz, while Allen allows well over 1 point per minute in those categories. I like Muniz here. I like him at 9,100. I think he does have a chance to pay off his salary, but it's going to be a little tough. Actually, you know what? I think if he can just control Allen and keep taking him down, I think he can pay off that salary. So I'll probably be above the field on Muniz and well below the field on Brendan Allen. I just don't see it this week.
Yeah, I like that approach. You're going to need underdogs this week. Brendan Allen has got to be in the mix. But I understand why you want to go too crazy because this matchup maybe plus 190. I mean, those odds are decent for the salary. And I think we'd agree if Brendan Allen's winning, he probably puts up a good enough score against his salary to having been worth using there. So that's a big part of the calculus. Listen, we're only going to be so much better or worse than the odds makers. Like the odds makers are saying 2-1. Okay. It's 2-1. All right, fine. But if he does win, what are the chances of being in the nuts? Probably pretty high. So definitely going to get a little bit of exposure there to Brendan Allen. All right, main event time. And I think it's a very difficult fight to call. So I'm really interested in your breakdowns here. But Nikita Krylov taking on Ryan Spann. Krylov minus 170. Comeback on Spann plus 150. This is 5 rounds. Fight inside the distance is a solid minus 800. That's a really high inside, even for a 5-rounder, Big Marley. Minus 800. Bro, this looks like this thing's ending in a finish. And Krylov is an exciting fighter. I always enjoy watching La Femme Nikita in his fights. But he does get finished on occasion. He's been submitted. I feel like he's, I don't know if he's a disappointing guy or somebody who just brain farts every once in a while and loses where he shouldn't. But that's kind of Krylov to me. I don't know. What do you think, Big Marl?
Yeah, I mean, Krylov's pretty much been a kill or be killed fighter his entire career in 3-round fights, and now we get 5 rounds to work with, which makes this pretty much an all-in fight for me for DraftKings. But I do think that Krylov is quite a bit better than Spann, honestly, everywhere. I think Spann is dangerous in round 1, and round 1 will be the biggest sweat in this fight. Maybe Spann goes out there and finishes this fight in the first round. But I think Krylov's going to be the guy that can take over the longer this fight goes and get himself a finish in any round. I think, the longer this goes, it's probably going to wear down Spann. I think he's going to get a finish eventually. But even if this does go 5 rounds somehow, I think Krylov is the guy that has a big-time ceiling. He's got the second highest ceiling on the card behind Suarez, in my opinion. He has scored over 115 DraftKings points 5 times in his career. Krylov probably be my I don't know. It'll depend on what I do with Suarez, but if I end up pivoting off Suarez to other fighters, I'm guessing Krylov will be my highest owned fighter on the card. I'll take a stand on this one. I like him quite a bit. I think he should be a bigger favorite than he is. I think maybe he will be a bigger favorite than he is when the fight happens, but give me Krylov to go out there and finish. I probably want him in 3/4 of my lineups.
Yeah, I'm
in the other quarter.
Yeah, I'm just checking the salary here for Krylov's 8,700. So, Monk 8,700. 5 rounds of action. Minus 800 inside the distance. Number one, I think you got to load up on both sides of this fight, but you tell me.
Yeah, excuse me. I'll be at about 100%. We're at about 40% and 40% according to ownership. And I think that is about right, unfortunately, which means you cannot just go 50-50. You have to take a stand, like you said, like Marley said. At first, at the beginning of the week, I was on Ryan Spann. These 3, Krylov, Spann, and Suarez, are by far the best DraftKings plays on the card. Spann is, in his last 5, 6.39 points per minute. That's even better than Suarez. 100 per win. That's not the best number. He also allows 6 points a minute right back at him and allows 114 per loss. Meanwhile, Krylov scores 5 points a minute, 117.66 his average over his last 3 wins. Over his career, 10 wins, 114 per win. The guy's value is basically the best on the card. These 3's value are the best on the card. So at first I was on Spann because I thought their ceilings might be about the same. And then why wouldn't I play the underdog, right? But the more I've been thinking about it, the more I'm leaning with Marley. Nikita Krylov at 8,700 might be the deal. I mean, he could Sergey Spivak Ryan Spann here and score 130. I mean, he only needs 115 to get 13.3x. His average over his last 3 is above that. We had somebody, I think it was Blanchfield last week, who's the only fighter whose average score per win was better than her 13x value, and she smashed and made optimal. I think the same thing's possible here with Krylov. Short of Spann just KOing Krylov in the first, I think Krylov could put him away in the first easily. I don't see how this one goes to decision, to be completely honest. Spann worries me. That sub he got subbed by with Anthony Smith was laughable. He's beat Misha Serkinov, Ion Kutalaba, who's gone just downhill, and then Dominic Reyes, who is right downhill with him. So
yeah, Dom Reyes, man. What
yeah, exactly. So, I like Krylov, man. I think he's going to get it done here. And again,
Serkinov.
Krylov. Oh yeah, I like Krylov here. I think he's going to get it done inside the distance, and I think he scores tremendously well. I think he's way too cheap. These guys have made optimal 5 out of their past 8 fights total. Again, optimal fighters fight optimally, guys. Get these guys in your lineup. I don't care who you pick. Pick a side and put them in your lineup. Me personally, I'll be going with Krylov. But if you're not on that side, put Spann in a ton of lineups.
Yeah, I agree in the sense that I prefer Krylov to get the W here. But that being said, both sides of this fight are super, super live. It's a close fight, plus 150 odds. And if Ryan Spann gets this win, he's in the nuts. Krylov gets the win, he's probably in the nuts at 8,700. So to me, this is just a load up on it fight. Don't worry too much. I'm not going to try to predict the winner as much because while I agree with you, I think Krylov's kind of better everywhere. But Krylov is also just,
he also put himself into a triangle against Paul Craig. That's terrible fight IQ.
He disappoints you. Krylov finds a way to lose. He's the kind of guy that loses to Paul Craig. Like, that's what he does.
Paul Craig has looked like absolute garbage, and I love Craig. He's looked like trash since Krylov.
But like Krylov like we like Craig in that fight because you're like, Krylov loses these kind of he gets caught.
But Ryan Spann apparently just started training MMA in his last fight, so that could either be really good or really bad.
He did just start taking it serious. That's what I'm saying. You can't know. I don't have confidence in Krylov at all. I would not bet it. Marley, you betting this one?
Maybe.
He's got to bet. See, I wouldn't bet it. I don't have confidence in it. I'm just like, yeah, he kind of seems like he could win, but I'm not betting that. All right. Time for the kill shot. This is the money shot time, okay? UFC Fight Night, Krylov versus Spann. DraftKings kill shot. Let's go around the room. Big Marley, who do you got?
I'm going to go with Aileen Perez. First round mauling.
Twerk her way to a win.
Yeah. Yeah, if you saw my internet going out, I was trying to look up these twerk videos and something happened.
It's all over the place. MonkMMAtics, who you got?
It's my guy. The Humpty Hump, Don'Tale Mays, Lord Kong over the bum Augusto Sakai.
Since we're singing our kill shot, I'm going with my girl, Jasmine Jazdavicious. She'll put you in stitches, and in her pockets, she'll possess mad riches.
All right.
She might after this one.
After this fight.
I'm up in my exposure at least 5-10% after that one.
You got to. All right, guys, tell us what your kill shot is in the comment section below. Let us know. Who do you like? We'll call you out on the next podcast if you nail a kill shot. Put in the comment section below. That'll do it for the Kill Shot MMA Fight Night Krylov versus Spann podcast. Remember, like, subscribe to the channel. And if you want to get the cheat sheets from Big Marley, from MonkMMAtics, access to the Domination Station where you can attack mass multi-entry contests. Listen, how you gonna take down the mini max on DraftKings? Want to handcraft 150 lineups? Big Marley. You don't want to get cramps in your hand.
Nah, I've done that one. I did create 150 lineups by hand one time, and thank God there were no cancellations because that was a nightmare.
That is what happens though. When the more you handcraft, this is why I try not to make too many lineups like before Saturday. It's like, oh, I'm handcrafting for the higher dollar contest, and all of a sudden you get an outage and you're like, oh shit. Now you got to go through every single one. With the Dom Station, it's just a click of a button. You're like, all right, no problem. Run it again, edit, boom, 150, take a tournament down. That's how you win the big monies. There's a reason why you see DFS Army helmets at the top of these contests. And it's not because of those sexy helmets, though they are. It's because the tools allow average Joes to compete on a level playing field with DFS pros across all sports. We crushed NASCAR the first week. We're doing that every single week. NBA, I mean, just look at the leaderboard for NBA. Every single slate, it's always a DFS Army guy in first. It's not our staff, it's our members, because our members fucking win. So sign up at DFS Army. My man, Big Marley, got promo code Sleeveless. He's giving out 10% off discounts to everybody. Promo code Sleeveless over at dfsarmy.com. I told you stop giving out all the free shit. He keeps doing it. What are you going to do?
Guy doesn't listen.
He does not listen.
Here we are giving this out for free.
I need full price subscribers, not these 10% off people.
Go sign up. Do not use my promo code Sleeveless. Pay the full 100%, and let's crush this week.
Still half the price of any other DFS site that's worth their salt. We keep it low. We want the everyman in DFS Army. We want you taking down tournaments. We keep it affordable because our goal is average Joe's competing with the pros. Although a lot of pros, DFS Army too. All right, that'll do it for this one, guys. Good luck. We'll see you next week, or we'll see you at the top of the leaderboards. Deuces.